moving forward, Chris, we've been in discussions with Chris Whitney because his Rotary year is up next, and we were trying to get it off to a good start regarding our dues structure. So I'd like to ask Chris to update us on some of the ideas we've discussed regarding our dues and what proposed changes. So Chris, would you like to take that?
Yeah, thank you. Can I actually take the screen?
Yes. Let me hang on a second. I'll make you
I don't see the button. Oh, there's a share button. I'm sorry.
Just a second. Okay, you should have it now. Can you share now?
Yeah. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yep, got it.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, we have been working. We call ourselves the Dues Committee. People involved. I was asked to chair this event. Jason Frazier, who will be our 23-24 club treasurer, Dan Bone, who's our president-elect after me. Then Drew and Chris have jumped in, and I think, obviously active board members. And then Richard Harris came in and sort of gave us a critique of where we were. So I think we've got a good range of folks that have been involved in creating this. With every great committee, you need to start with a plan in hand of why you're meeting, and the first and foremost goal of this group was to encourage members to attend weekly meetings in person. That was sort of job one. We've all talked about different ways of doing that. Second is, and although our numbers have gotten a little better, the current way our meals are set up right now are actually a loss leader. We exactly charge what we pay, and anything that deviates from that puts us in a negative category. So we were looking for ways to have cost and then operations of the club really covered in this due structure, so we could never really get into deficit spending. Next is, we've had tons of conversation about, do we need Zoom? Is Zoom keeping people from showing up? So we want to maintain, I think there's a value to our Zoom connection, both to the public and to sort of our shut-in members, older members that can't get downtown every day. That's a very valuable part of our legacy. And so we think we want to keep that, but we need to find a way to motivate people to be in the room and use the Zoom as an alternate as opposed to their primary. We get almost 20 people a week on Zoom, and we don't want to lose the connection to those people. Next is, it'd be fun to, or it'd be good to package ourselves such that every dollar we raise at events goes out to whatever charity we're pledging for at that moment. And right now we've been starting to restructure some of those things between what goes to the foundation, what stays in the club, to help balance our bucks. So we want to avoid that. Next is to create a meal structure that actually motivates our members to invite prospective members. So the conversation earlier is a great segue into one of our goals today. And we've talked about several different ways of doing that, but coming from successful examples, if you bring a quote prospective member, they get one free meal at our club. So we are encouraging our folks to invite their people that might be considered, and we need to have a meal structure that's prepared to cover that. So inside our structure, we've got a little residual that gives us the opportunity to do that. Because bringing somebody to lunch, grabbing somebody, I'm going to Rotary, come with me. We want to encourage that. Now, each person who comes only gets one, so they come 3 or 4 times, that controls that exposure. But we want more people, more guests showing up at our meetings. And finally,
sorry, can they utilize that in real time to maybe pay for their guest meal?
That would be the goal, is if they're categorized as a prospective member, not spouses and kids and all that kind of stuff, that we would cover that cost.
Candace, just to clarify that though, he's not talking about that the member has a free meal that day. He's saying the guest's meal is free.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So, and then finally, and this is sort of a residual, we rearranged our registration line. It's gotten better, but that congestion and all those transactions that occur at registration, we'd like to streamline that so those people can be more friendly to our guests and just move that stuff through faster. We really want people having time to have fellowship. So a minor goal, but still on the list. So, a little background, I think I've said some of these things, the dues and meal collections do not cover our meals and operational costs because speakers, meals and any other guests that we pay for, there's no compensation for that. We've actually, another issue that came up in the most recent deliberations is we've had both some younger members and some older members say, is there a way I can make monthly payments instead of, you're either a choice of annual or semi-annual. Those on fixed income, it seems to be for them. And then we had a young member actually come up and say, I'd love it, this just sort of hit my account, once a month. And so looking for ways to automate that. Speakers and unpaid guests are unfunded. We want to be able to do that. When the district governor shows up, we want to have funds lying there to pay for his, those kind of things. We need to be an inclusive and inviting club. We're also expecting ACE is going to want some more money at some point, and we don't have anything built in because we're actually only charging what we're paying right now. So there's no residual there. We'd like to improve meals at ACE, and I think if we had a larger volume of people, it would be easy for us to wiggle with them, because if you're making $1 on every meal, the more meals you serve, there's more dollars to maybe put back into the product. And a separate issue, but that's all part of the snowball going the right way. Actual costs for 100% member attendance, just some fun numbers that we did the math for, is that if you show up, you pay your dues, and you pay the $20 every week that we have a meeting, that's an annual cost of $14.95. If you currently show up or you pay for your meals in advance, that's $13.03. If you show up, pay your dues, and only attend 33 meetings, that's $1,200 out of pocket. So those are just some little sort of interesting numbers that the committee kind of came up with as we went through this. So there's ways in math to make those numbers work better. So in all these scenarios, the club has been in deficit spending. Our build rates do not cover what to do if we have a meeting that's under 40 people. There were several months or several meetings that we ate those $20 charges. So we were actually in the hole, even with people paying. So, there's lots of little residual funds and things that we need to keep a little nest egg inside this system. So that's kind of what our goals and where we are. And so our committee came up with this proposal, and that's to combine both dues and meal costs for every member at a total of $1,200 per year. And, to collect that money, currently we have either the annual payment or semi-annual payment. And then you also have the choice whether you pay weekly for your food. We're saying that the weekly for your food goes away. So everybody's all in up front. And in any of the scenarios that you look above, $1,200 should result in a cost savings for every member that attends at least 33 meetings in a year. And if you don't attend 33 meetings, we're trying to motivate you to do that. So that's our first piece. We also have some sort of other components to that. We want to encourage people bringing family members. So, spouses or children attending would pay our cost rate. Then visitors and guests would actually pay, visitors and guests would pay cost plus some amount because, they are guests and therefore don't get the discount of having paid for the year. Identified prospective members get one free lunch if invited by member as a prospective member. And so we'll need to monitor that a little bit, but our discussion will be, we've got some funds put away to encourage more people to bring new faces into our room. And then finally offer a sort of a non-published exemption for what I call our shut-in members, people, senior members of the club who won't be able to get to the club. Maybe we'll find a discretionary, board or president level decision that we can reduce them to just dues. So, we're always going to take care of those members that have longevity with us. And so, that's really that option. Because I think there are a few members that show up by Zoom that really are a little more cash strapped and really never able to get to our to our club meeting, and we want to find that slot for them. So that's kind of the big picture of our proposal. We started talking about how to sell this to our membership. To me, I think, once you see how those numbers work out, it's kind of a no-brainer. But, when we prepay everybody, everybody's costs go down. And that's really how we're able to offer this discount. Better line management, it's easier to get in. Jason on our committee came up with a point that Winter Park pays $25 just for a visitor meal. And our numbers work out to exactly $25, including the meal and dues. So, this is really, there was rumors we were the most expensive club in the district, and, we are not that. So, in addition, we want to expand with some flexible pay options for cash sensitive members, allowing this, full pay option allows for every business to write one check a year, for those who get reimbursed. We want to keep the club in the black and, at the same time, save every member money. The higher, people, the more people we have in the room, I think the better, or the more often speakers want to come to us. Larger crowds are better. We've also talked about ways of publicizing some of our live videos. There really seems to be a draw towards Zoom, though almost all clubs in our district, maybe all but us, have dropped that as their way of getting members back in the room. I think it offers a valuable asset to our members who travel, and they know they're giving up their lunch for the day, but at least they get to participate. So it's very different than if I go on Zoom, I get to save my lunch money. So your lunch is already paid for. You're going to show up more often when you're on that, should I go or should I not line. Hopefully, if the way the cash works out and the numbers of people show up, we can leverage for a little better food from Ace Cafe, and maybe they make a little bit more money at the same time. So it's a win-win for both. And then one thing I think that it's sort of buried in our board meetings is that, we've begun to repackage how we publicize monies collected for our events for the poker. Not all the money is going to go to Valencia, because we were keeping money for either the foundation or the club. And with this pricing structure, 100% of those things collected at an event either helps pay for that event or goes to the charities offered. And I think, putting on your hat, trying to sell tickets, trying to raise prizes, that really gives, our sponsors and our volunteers a much cleaner message to deliver. And then the one free lunch per prospective members, I think, really goes to what we spend a bunch of time here. Come have a meal with us, try us out. I do believe that Thursdays are not about Rotary. Thursdays are about bragging about Rotary. All the things that we do all week, all month, all year gets showcased on Thursdays. And so we get a chance to crow, and having more people come and see that, along with the amazing speakers, along with all the good things and fellowship, those things all happen. So I'm going to save next steps for a few minutes. And if there's anybody else on our committee wants to jump in and have their say.
Well, Chris, I think you did a great job of summarizing.
Well done.
I would just add that for me, one of the selling features of this plan is that I think everybody needs to understand that our club has a minimum obligation, or an obligation to pay for a minimum of 40 meals at ACE under our current agreement. And so if we're going to call ourselves members of this club, we ought to share that obligation. And so that, to me, is just part of that's part of our membership cost. It's our meeting cost. It's if you don't, even if you can't make the meal, you should understand that by paying your dues, you're contributing to the costs of the club. And that includes a minimum of 40 meals per year. And we ought to each be contributing to that cost. So I've always felt that we should try to combine dues with meals and not separate them. I think this creates a much better incentive for people to go to meetings, so they aren't sitting there thinking, well, gee, if I stay home and watch it on Zoom, I can actually save $20. That shouldn't even enter a person's mind. They should want to go to the club. They should want to come to the meeting, and the cost of the meal shouldn't even be a factor because they've already paid for it. So I support this proposal 100%.
Jason, I think I heard your voice.
I said, good job.
Oh, okay. Chris, Dan, you want to comment?
Just real quick, I think Jason summed it all up well, and Chris did a great job mentioning it, that if you think about it, this puts the cost of Rotary at $25 a week. That's it. That everybody should be able to handle.
I concur, and I think Chris did a great job.
Chris Wallace?
I think Chris explained everything. It's everything that we've discussed. I think we're all in unanimous decision that this is the way we need to go. I think in the long run, even for new prospective members, it spells it out easier for them to understand what the commitment is. And it kind of takes this off the board of as an issue to how to go about it.
And then finally, our technical resource, Dick Harris.
Yeah, two things. First of all, if we have 100 members and we each pay $1,200, that's $120,000 revenue. That would be about $28,000 more than I'm projecting that we have for this year. And but much of that will be paying for additional meals. But the real benefit is getting members back in the room, because how can we have a dynamic club, an exciting club, an effective club as a service club if our members don't show up? That's the big benefit. And assuming that the members realize that their total cost for dues and meals, all of their meals, is the same as just buying lunch at Winter Park, that kind of puts a new light on it. So you guys did a good job. And the issue now is to have the board ponder this and actually kind of float the idea, if you will, to the members so that it doesn't come as a shock. But I'm sure you guys have thought about a plan for introducing it, but it's a good proposal for a solid future.
We'll take questions from the board.
Fragrance today. I mean, I did not. So if I love it, and I'm sure maybe I would spend that, but let me just put a little bit more on and then I'll.
I think Rhoda's mic is on and she needs to be on mute.
Okay. 'Cause
Hey,
I
Chris,
couldn't hear.
could you maybe stop sharing so we can
Oh, sure.
see each other? Unless people have questions.
Or comments.
If you want to, Jason, just turn your view in the upper right-hand corner to, oh, okay, fine.
Too late.
You can see the overhead and see everybody at the same time. I was gonna show you how to do that.
Okay.
Chris, I will tell you, this is probably the most comprehensive program I've seen, and I've heard for Drew for a couple of years now about how to do this, and I really like what you've done and how you've done it. It's really well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree. Chris, you and the committee all did an outstanding job on this, and it was well thought out, well presented. I know the purpose of your talk today was just to get this out in front of the board, not necessarily to have a vote on it. But obviously any dues change has to be approved by the board. But I think our plan is to put that into motion at the next board of directors meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, what we didn't want to do is try to force anything, through the board. This is something that is important. And you all should get a chance to think about it. Now, I do have sort of the next steps identified. And if I was still sharing, you'd see them, but I can read them to you. There's only 4 points. We've got some technical issues to resolve. A part of streamlining the walkthrough at our registration is, you know, how we collect the money. If we're going to do credit cards, and because we have residuals left in this, I don't propose at this point a credit card charge. We want to be friendly, and because everybody kind of grumbles when they get that charge. So for right now, we're going to create, and according to our technical resource, Dick, there's a module we can buy for QuickBooks that will automate that. You trust the club with your credit card, we can put it in there. You can be charged once a month, twice a year, once a year, however you want to do that, or give us, you know, a check. But the goal would be not monthly for Tammy to be going and creating another task. Those alternate payments are automated, and so the money just sort of shows up. Now, I think for the annual thing, you know, one check if they want to, but I would propose that if you go for the semi-annual, that you give us a credit card, and January 1st, you are charged. There's no going around collecting money. When you sign up for Rotary July 1st, you're in for the year. Now, you know, we'll deal with exceptions as they come along, but it becomes a mechanical thing. You know, my cell phone doesn't give me options on how they're going to collect my money. And, you know, I think we are worth more than my cell phone bill. So we got a little bit of quick tweaking to do with that, and hopefully in this next month before the next board meeting, we can tell you those exact costs. I didn't, you know, although we knew there was going to be residual money, we weren't really sure how much all this credit card stuff was going to cost. So we'll present those numbers next month as we have them. So that's the first and second. We got to buy the module for QuickBooks, and then we got to figure out the transaction cost for credit cards. Third is whether or not the board wants to pitch this to the club before they actually approve it or not. And, you know, I'm open to suggestion on whether we tell them what's happening or whether we say, what do you think? Which is also dangerous. You know, it's dangerous if you tell them because they might just quit. It's dangerous if you give options, because then we have 100 options to consider and might delay all this stuff. So I turn to the power of the people who've been doing this a lot longer. Candace.
If I think it just makes everything cleaner. And if you're going to lose someone over that, they don't belong there anyway.
Amen.
Great.
Right.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Now, I'm very much for Rotary costs money, and this is just the entry fee, you know, and this is just a conversation for the board. I think every member should have $500 in a kitty that we go tap them occasionally through the year, you know, on top of these numbers. You know, here's $100 for, you know, the book fairs. Here's $100 for, you know, Ukraine. You know, you've got a little kitty of money at whatever level you want to give. That's over and above. This is sort of the minimum requirements to be a Rotarian.
So your thoughts are, do we want to publish this to the membership first?
I'd say present this, but I'm looking for a consensus.
All
I mean, we
right.
can make a presentation. This is the due structure for next year, really, because it should save everybody money.
We can
I don't think
present it in
any
the,
variance is less than
present it in the
33 times.
we can present this in the Wednesday edition, the bare bones of it, not total detail on it, but present it just to, like you said, so it's not a shock to people that we got a dues change coming up next year, and then it'll give a chance to you know, circulate around the club a little bit before the board of directors votes on it next month.
I would only give you the guidance, and this is really to Drew and to Chris, because I've heard from them the most of this objective. I think you need to manage the narrative. I don't think reading it in the Wednesday edition is the way to
Right.
manage the narrative.
Yeah, I
think
agree
what-
with that.
I think what you might want to do is you might want to have maybe a club assembly one week and just devote to everybody, here's what's going on, here's what we're talking about, here's what we're thinking about, and kind of be able to have Chris and Drew and all of the people that are on the committee to be able to put the spin on why this is a win-win and talk it up that way. I think you have a much better chance of having less resistance.
Okay, in the same breath, right? That's a great opportunity to discuss, you know, guests. So, you know, we're having to look at issues like this and how we can maximize our, you know, do, et cetera, because really everybody's not doing their part here to bring in guests, you know,
Right.
so it gives everybody an opportunity to sort of see where they're also responsible. And Rhoda could use that time as doing the survey exercise, right? It's almost like making the members a committee for one day.
It's a great idea. So what we're talking about is instead of our regular program, we would have a club assembly where we discuss all these issues.
Absolutely.
Introspective,
I love that idea.
club introspective, and then you could even open it up for what projects that, people are thinking about. How do we get people more involved, and just kind of open it up.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what a club assembly is. It's really an update on everything. I would tell you right now, February 9th is available.
I'd say we should pencil that in then. Chris, would
Oh,
you?
I can't be there tonight. I won't be there. Don't do it because of me. I've got to be in St. Pete for a big meeting on the 9th.
Well, unfortunately, Dan won't be able to make it. Chris, would you and the rest of the board, do you think you could get consensus on that to be able to present this?
Sure.
I'm in.
Okay,
I like the idea of having sort of 5 issues instead of just one.
I agree.
We're going to talk about, how the poker tournament just did. We're going to talk about the golf outing that's coming. We're going to talk about dues changes. We're going to talk about membership and that could be Rhoda and Candace, pitching the survey while you're in the room. These are some things we want to leave this room with. So the dues isn't as big a deal because in general, this is a dues reduction. The only people that are going to pay more are the Zoom people that don't ever
Never
come.
buy lunch. The people that never buy lunch are going to.
That's a small piece of the active membership. So, this is not a big deal, and look at all we're going to be able to do.
Totally. Makes a lot of sense. Rich, do you want to pencil that in for us on the?
Yeah, I just did.
Great.
I would throw in there, though, that we talked about the revenue coming in. We talked about those. I would then talk about some of the potential expenses. These are the projects we support. Are there any projects that you're thinking of that we should be doing in the community that we're unaware of? Something to that effect, where people can pitch their own, not that we have to do it, but just to get people thinking about what else we could be doing in the community. Small, large, medium, whatever.
Call for proposals.
That's a great
Another thing-
idea. And I don't know how many of you have been, I don't know how many of you attended the last club assembly we had, but that is one of the things that we've did at the club assembly was Dick talked about all the things we have contributed, just so you know. In fact, I think Dick went back 2 years and told everybody historically, here's what we've done, here's where we're going to go. We also showed them how all of this fit into the strategic plan in terms of what we were doing and things that we should, as our club, should be proud of things that we've done in the community and things we've done for Rotary too. So
I do it every year.
And that should also be on the agenda for the assembly.
Yep.
Rich,
Thursdays where we take credit for all the great things we do and the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Great.
Rich, in order to sell this, I think every member of the board would be benefited if you would send them a copy of the strategic plan.
Sure.
Because there's nothing in this plan that Chris just presented that's inconsistent. In fact, it's very supportive of our strategic plan. But
I drank the Kool-Aid.
when we're talking about changing the future, we need to change it in accord with the strategic plan or change the strategic plan.
Yeah. Drew, you had something you'd like to add?
Yeah, first of all, I think it's a great idea to have a club assembly. Our club used to do that, and it's something we should do at least annually, and so I fully support that. I would just highly recommend that, Chris, whether you do it or Dave does it or somebody else does it, you need to moderate that meeting pretty carefully and pretty closely according to a schedule, because I'm hearing all these topics coming up, and I'm sensing that each of them could take up a half an hour. If the discussion gets out of hand. So, you need to basically say, okay, we're going to spend 5 minutes on this topic. We're going to spend 10 minutes on this topic. Okay, we're going to have to cut off the discussion because we have to move on to this topic. But just make sure you move it along according to a schedule, or else you won't get anything done.
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
handle that part of it.
Or have a little sheet out with 5 little things. Name your top 5 projects that and just hand them in. We don't even discuss it. We discuss it later. We just get their input and then discuss it later.
Yeah, and I want to present at this too, and David, if somebody's taking notes, is we need to identify all our committees and be looking for chairs for next year. So we go, in April and May our committee chairs know their committee chairs before July 1 comes and they begin to have their strategy for their committee. So, and we can work on this offline in our staff meetings on Mondays. But, you know, that's a critical thing that I think we don't do well is, you know, getting everybody organized before July 1st. So
All right.
we will work on that. I am a big agenda fan. You can see by the way I presented today, there needs to be clear, understandable points.
Excellent.
Drew wrote a great narrative in paragraphs, but I don't find that effective in committee, you know, in public presentations. So I'm a bullet guy. So
Okay.
Um,
Any other discussion?
I guess if we're going to do that, when's our next board meeting?
Tammy, can you help us on that one?
It would be after this one. Yeah, it would be,
Next
It'll
month.
be after the 9th.
yeah.
If it's
It'll
going
be
to be
the-
after the 9th, I would like to get a straw vote.
It,
Because if we could say we have 100% board, you know, support of this proposal, that makes the presentation on the 9th more meaningful.
it's
Tammy,
actually February 14th.
I was
Yeah,
just gonna say
February
14th, right?
Valentine's
So although
Day,
I was not
great.
going to ask for a vote, if we're going to do that to the club, I would like to be able to talk about board support.
The board meeting is going to be February the 14th, not prior to February 9th. It's going to be February 14th. So it would be after the club assembly.
Well, that's exactly what we were trying to do is we go talk about this in the assembly, then the board of directors would vote on the actual change the following week.
Well, I'm fine for the official action to incorporate, but I would like to have a straw vote. If we have 100% support, that's an important thing to say. Because we had 100% support from the committee. We've elevated it to the board level. If we have that, and I don't know, because we haven't voted yet. It's just a straw vote of show of support for this proposal.
We can incorporate that into the club assembly then.
Yeah, well, I'd make a motion that we have a straw vote right now on this proposal.
That's what I'm
A
asking. for.
non-binding.
fine.
straw.
Okay,
Dick
Yeah,
seconded.
I think it's a great idea. Yeah.
okay, so we have a motion right now to vote
So
on that.
who made the motion for the straw vote?
I did. And
Drew
it's just a straw ballot. It's non-binding, but it's just
I know,
what Chris
I
is
know.
trying to do is get an idea.
and Dick
what
Harris
board is-
seconded.
Okay.
Dick
I got
seconded
it.
it.
David, it's your meeting.
Duly noted.
Sorry, thank you. All right. All in favor of that proposal?
Any opposed?
All opposed?
Thank you. That's very helpful as we begin to push this forward. And thank you for your
Right.
support. This committee's done a bunch of work. We've had multiple meetings, both together and separately. So it really is a summary of a lot of creative minds.
I
You've
think,
done a great
Chris,
job.
when you present this at the assembly, it should be presented by you and your committee. Because
Yeah.
you guys control the enthusiasm and you also have the objective of being able to manage the narrative to be able to do that. And then you can let them know that based upon what the feedback and whatever, this is going to come up next week at the February board meeting for approval.
Final approval.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes them
So-
feel like they're part of it.
So everybody knows last year, the club and the foundation combined contributed over $106,000 to the community for all the projects that we support.
Amazing.
That doesn't count any matching funds, and it doesn't count the thousands of volunteer hours that we put in.
Right.
That's great.